Hey there internet, and welcome to another wrap-up video. I cannot believe where this summer has gone. It totally flew by, and even more than that, I can't believe how much I read in July. I didn't feel like I was reading a lot, but apparently I was wrong. First up for my school teacher book club was Don't Put Me In, Coach. This was the story about a guy who played for the Ohio State basketball team between 2006 and 2010. He was a walk-on player, and his story is a bit unorthodox. For one, he seems like maybe the laziest athlete I've ever met, and yet he played for a Big Ten school. To get in touch with more of what my students are reading for class, I read a few books from the English department's reading list. One was The Tao of Pooh, which actually is from the social studies department, and it explains different ideas of Confucianism, but through the lens of Winnie the Pooh characters. I've not studied much of Eastern philosophy before, but this was so helpful and a really quick, interesting read. I can see why they assign it to the kids. Another thing that the students have to read for the English department is the Odyssey. So I haven't read that since I was a freshman in high school. I reread that this month. Another thing that I read because of that was The Penelope by Margaret Atwood. I love Margaret Atwood's novel The Handmaid's Tale. I haven't read anything else by her. And this is a retelling of the Odyssey, but from Odysseus' wife's point of view, Penelope. I thought it was masterfully written, and I can't wait to get my hands on more books by this amazing author. I delved into novellas a little bit this month, reading one sort of combo book called Gigi and the Cat. These are two stories written by the French author Colette, one of which is the inspiration for the stage musical Gigi. I remember seeing that at the Tonys a couple years ago, so I always wanted to read the original story. It's very interesting to me how this story, both of them actually, take place about 100 years ago in France, and just seeing how things have drastically changed for women and in relationships and how we deal with each other, yet so many things have stayed the same. Another book for the teacher book club was Violent Ends. This book was actually written by 17 different young adult authors, each one taking a different chapter, and each one taking a different point of view, a different character in the situation of a school shooting. So for example, the first chapter is taking place several years before the shooting, and it introduces you to the character who ends up eventually going on to shoot and kill many people at his high school, including himself. It was very interesting to see how all of these different pieces fit together, how all of these authors had distinct voices but at the same time had overlapping characters and situations, and since it is a teacher book club, there was a lot of really meaningful discussion about this book, and I can see why it is such a hot pick with my students, because it does make you think, but at the same time the format of it is very easy to read. I was lucky enough to read a few arcs last month, one of which is actually already in stores. 9 Women, One Dress is a particularly fun sort of story. It's about 9 women whose lives all sort of become related because of this one dress. Not all of the chapters are done from the point of view of these 9 women. There are a couple men who have points of view in chapters as well, but just to see how this one dress manages to shape and affect so many different people's lives. Another bonus for me was that the story takes place primarily in New York, and I had just gone to Manhattan, so that was sort of fun. Continuing in my New York kick, another arc I read was Sunset in Central Park. This is a women's fiction book, very romantic, very much a fun sort of beach read about a woman who lives and works in New York City, and she figures out, to everyone else's knowledge and something she's been hiding from herself for years, that she is incredibly attracted to one of her best friend's brothers. It was light, it was of course romantic, but overall I got through it in probably 2 afternoons, and it was fun to sort of spot the landmarks I had just seen while I was on my vacation. 7 Days of You is an arc that actually isn't coming out till next January, so I'm not going to talk about it much, but this is about the story of a teenager who, during her last week of living in Tokyo, Japan, that's also the first week back of a guy who used to be one of her friends when they were younger. Their trains passing in the night kind of a situation. And the last arc I read last month was Where Am I Now? This was written by Mara Wilson, who is the girl best known in her acting career for her roles in Mrs. Doubtfire, Matilda, and Miracle on 34th Street. It was really interesting in this collection of essays to see what that growing up was like, what was happening in her world behind the scenes, and how she broke up with Hollywood. And that will be hitting bookstores this fall. And I have to end this video on a high note with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I went and bought it the day it came out. I read it the day it came out. I finished it the day it came out. And I forgot the total amount of anxiety and excitement that comes with being about to read a Harry Potter book for the first time again. I loved it. I never thought I would have that feeling again. As for the book, it's not like the other 7. It's a very natural departure for me. I liked it. I thought it was a very inventive way of showing these characters we've come to love over my entire adolescence in a new light, a couple 19 years older, and I thought it worked. I thought in times it took me in directions that I wasn't sure where it was going or I didn't want to go, but overall I was satisfied with this installment. I wish I could go see the play in London, but maybe it'll come to the United States someday, and hopefully it'll come around the Chicagoland area so I could take it in as well. But Harry, welcome back. I missed you. So that is what I read in July. A whole lot of titles. All of my usual links are down below. Comments are always welcome, and that's it for me for now. Take care. Bye. I am currently reading Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, the book that inspired the hit musical. And if you like what you've seen here today, please like and please subscribe.